Hello, everyone. I'm so excited that you are joining us today. And we are focusing today on the world of remote and hybrid work, which, of course, as we know, since COVID has opened up incredible opportunities. But there are also some hurdles that come along with it. So, if you happen to be someone who has navigated over to working remote and you might be experiencing some of these hurdles, then this is definitely for you. I know for me, as someone who works online a lot now, I am so excited to talk to our guest today, Steven Puri, because Steven is recognized. There he is. Hey, Steven. Steven is Steven has recognized this dynamic shift when it comes to um online learn. I'm going to start over there. I'm going to edit that out. Hold on. Recognize this. Oh, yes. Okay. Let me start over. Recognized this dynamic shift was happening with a lot of people, and driven by a desire to help them, he developed an innovative focus and productivity tool. And who
Mhm.
cannot use that in today's world of distraction? So, this isn't just about getting more done faster. It's about cultivating a genuinely healthier approach to
Mhm.
work, especially as we move into the future. And this whole concept of remote and hybrid work is not going anywhere. We like to call it, or Stephen likes to call it, work fitness. So Stephen is the
Mhm.
founder of the Sukha Company. If you want to look that up, it's Sukha. Of course, we are going to link that in the show notes. The Sukha Company is an innovative platform designed to help remote workers like you finish faster and feel healthy. So in a world where distractions, of course, are stealing our most precious resource, our time, I really can't wait to learn more about Stephen's extensive knowledge on this subject and bring it to you. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. I hope we can make this a very helpful and also an engaging and fun episode.
Oh, I have no doubt. So, I'm going to start off by asking you what actually prompted you to start delving further into this topic?
Love that question. And I'm going to say this for everyone listening at home in the car, which is where I listen to podcasts. The reason to listen to this is the following. I have a very strange background in that I was a senior executive at a couple motion picture studios. I also raised a ton of venture capital, over $20 million of venture capital, and have run some tech companies, one exit, two failures, right? So a lot of learning in different disciplines. And what I saw between the two was that there were some very common ideas about how to lead and also to contribute in remote and hybrid situations that led to healthier kind of outcomes, healthier, um, you know, employees, healthier
Yeah.
selves. And that is really, for me, the the quest I'm on. When you talked about I'm building this platform, the platform is a manifestation, of a lot of things that I've learned. And I hope by the end of this episode, whoever's here has picked up some concrete, like actionable stuff, like, oh, here's something I could do that'll either make me feel happier, healthier, more productive in my life. And they'll remember it because we'll have a fun story to illustrate. Like, here's kind of how I saw this in real life. And some of the film stories are kind of fun. So
Yeah.
let's dive in.
Amazing. Okay. So tell us a little bit more about the Suka platform itself.
Sure. I'll tell you, a lot of what I developed comes from pain. And by that, I say, when you are developing a story like for film or a book, very often you have a hero or heroine.
Mhm.
And ultimately, what you need to understand is how are they flawed? What is their big problem inside? And the end of that story is going to be they resolve it and it's a success, or they don't and it's a tragedy, right? When you are looking at things in those broad strokes, you go, wow, okay, so many things in life are about I have an obstacle in front of me, I have a problem inside me, and how are those two things going to interact? Will I succeed? So for me, I realized that I do have ADD. It doesn't really present as hyperactivity, but I do have ADD where I think I can multitask, think I
Mhm.
can do a lot of things at the same time, and that sort of mentality, which we're going to talk about, is not exactly true. We'll make a very fine grain examination of that, right? But I looked at the problems that I had, and I'm going to enumerate some of them. And if anyone listening is nodding their head, going, "Oh my God, I totally do that," I have some solutions, and I'll tell you about how they fit into the platform I built. One thing I noticed I did, which I called the cold start problem, and this was even worse working remote or hybrid, which is tomorrow morning I'm going to get going at 9, 8:30, 9:30, whatever time, right? But at that time, I would find myself either returning some emails I thought needed to be returned, or pick up my phone and just catch
Yeah.
up on the news really quick. And at the end of the day, when I looked at what I gotten done, I realized it was just procrastination. It was not really, oh, these emails are burning and they must be returned now. It was not, I must know what happened in the news today. It was procrastination. And then that leads you to the next layer of the onion. You peel that back, you go, well, why am I procrastinating? And for me, and for a lot of people I've spoken to now, 400 or 500 people, it's one of two kinds of overwhelm. It's either overwhelm at you look at a list of things that has to get done and your task list is intimidating. It's paralyzing where you're like, all 17 things truly need to get done. I know I can't do them between now and my next meeting, between now and when I go to sleep, whatever. And it almost stops you from doing things, right? And the other kind of overwhelm is there's something on there that's so large you're not going to get it done. Write my book, write my term, paper,
Yeah.
like that sort of thing, where you're just paralyzed because you don't even know the enormity of it, how you can get it done, right? So here's what I did. And by the way, anything smart that you hear here is probably because as I dug into these problems and thought a lot of people have solved them before, how they've done it, I read the book by the smart people. You
Yes.
read like Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, you read, James Clear, and you read Cal Newport's Deep Work, you read Near, you read, Tiny Habits and Fog and all that. Like there's a great commonality. You read 12 of them in a row and you
Yeah.
realize these are not different ideas. They're basically saying the same things. And I just said, how do I bake that into a solution? And then if I make that solution for myself, who else will want it, right? So let me give you a very clear solution. Problem one, cold start, right? There are too many things. It's paralyzing. Something I did is I said, what if when I started work in the morning, I had a smart assistant who said, hey, Steven, listen, I looked at your 17 things. It seems like these are the three that are priorities. Do you agree? And I can change. I can be like, well, actually, I think I should do this instead of that. Let's swap it out. Let's make it these three. And then when I start work, when in our platform, we have focus music that plays and stuff like that, the 14 that I don't have to focus on right now get hidden. And I can just see three. And suddenly becomes much more doable. And it's a very simple thing. But seeing those three things where I go, yeah, these are priorities. Can I tell you, since we instituted that on our platform, our members have a 77% better chance of finishing all three than when they could see all 17. Same tasks, same amount of time, but it's just the feeling of, oh, I can get that done. And you do.
So do they put the 17 things so you have a space on the platform where you would write in your to-do
You have like
list
a Kanban board where you can have like all your to-dos.
Yes.
But then you have this session bucket and there are only three things that fit in there. You can't stuff it full. So you can capture everything and feel good. Like, okay, I know everything I have to do.
That.
When you start, your assistant sort of helps you prioritize and helps me get going. Like a minute helps me go, oh yeah, I need to do these three things. And then I start my session and those three things are visible. I can mark them completed. It feels really good, and it's interesting how just a simple trick like that of saying, oh, this is something I could accomplish helps. Same thing with the other cold start problem. The task is so large. If the assistant sees something like that, it'll often say, hey, Stevie, you know what? You're not going to write your book this morning, but how about we just make a task called outline chapter 3? I know I saw you finish chapters 1 and 2. We could do that maybe 35 minutes. If history is our guide, you take a little more than half an hour to do that. And then suddenly it goes from this gargantuan, I'm never going to do it, into oh yeah, I could totally bang out the outline for chapter 3 in 35 minutes. And then like dominoes, things start to fall. This is one of the tricks I found with the morning cold start thing is when you do get that momentum and you look up after an hour, you're like, I've gotten these 3 things done. It feels great. That momentum, that energy carries you through the day. So that again is an example I want to say, working backwards from, well, what's the pain? How does the hero or heroine solve it? What's the obstacle? What's the deep why there that problem exists? And then say, okay, well, maybe we could do it this way. And the same thing with at the end of the day, I experienced pain where I would have I didn't get all this done. I've got to, like Laura and I, my wife, we have to run to that dinner. I'm going to get up early tomorrow and I'll get this done tomorrow before I start tomorrow's work. And you tell yourself that lie. And then tomorrow night, the domino falls into Wednesday and then the domino falls into Thursday. And you repeat that lie to yourself. I got so sick of that where I was like, I know I'm not going to get through it tomorrow. Or if I do, it'll mean tomorrow's work doesn't get done. How do I solve that? How do I manage my time in such a way at the end of the day I feel great? Matter of fact, the name of my company, which I know is a weird name, Sukha,
Mm.
right? Strange
Yeah.
name. People ask me all the time, why did you name it that? And I'll tell you, it's kind of, well, it's an insightful story. And it also, I think, illustrates why we're doing what we're doing. So, Laura, my wife I mentioned, we met in yoga in Manhattan. I married the girl on the mat to my left, right?
Okay.
Awesome experience. Yoga is part of our life. We have a daily yoga practice. And I love the physical mixed with the spiritual kind of like sense, right? The
Yes,
mind and body and
me
soul sort of
too.
together. So we got married a couple of years ago when we had an early version of this platform running and it needed a name. And I said to Laura, I was like, we're going off on our honeymoon. We're going to Bali. Very grateful. That's where life is. We get to go to Bali on, vacations. So I said to her, you know what? Maybe I'll find that name that I've been grappling with, trying to get something better than, focus app, healthy, distraction free zone app 12,
Yes.
like all the bad, I had to list all the bad names there. I knew they were bad, right? So I said, maybe I'll just bubble up out of my unconscious while we're doing yoga and hanging out and eating and being together, right? Laura's like, cool. I was like, I think on the first day, something really helpful is maybe if I speak to a couple of the people I see using it a lot and ask them, what do they love about it? Maybe they'll name something that'll be like the seed that goes in my imagination. I posted our little group chat. It's like, who has 15, 10, 15 minutes to chat? A couple of people say yes. Talk to them, ask the usual questions. What's your favorite feature? Do you love the smart assistant that sets your day up? Do you love the timers? We do Pomodoro timers. Do you like the music? Do you like this? Right? And the guy stopped me. He said, Steven, you asked the wrong questions. I was like,
Oh,
okay, please tell me what is the right question. He said, you should have asked me why I pay you. And I was like, we charge like 30 cents a day. I didn't think it's like that big a deal. It's not like buying a Birkin bag or something.
yes,
Okay.
definitely not.
So I was like, okay, fair enough. Like, why do you pay me? This is what he said. He said, at 3 o'clock, I can be playing with my kids. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. Or at 6 o'clock, I could be down on myself and tell myself, where did the day go? And, am I going to get up early tomorrow and try and finish this stuff I need to finish? Or will I do it after dinner? He's like, I found that the difference between those 2 days is, did I open your app in the morning? So I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. And I was like, thank
Yep.
you, sir. In yoga, we hear all these Sanskrit concepts like karma and
Yes.
dharma and satya. She's like, he described you as sukha. It's the happiness you feel when you're self-fulfilled, when you're doing something with ease and you're good at it. You're in your lane doing the thing and you just feel healthy and good. And she said, there's your answer. And from bed that night in Bali, I went on my little phone to see if the website is available, the Sukha Company, the happiness
Yes.
company. It was. I bought it, named the
Nice.
company right there, which interestingly enough is related to what Mihai Csikszentmihalyi writes about in Flow, the book that named flow states. What is amazing, and a lot of what I'm going to say right now, the next 2 minutes, are from Flow, right? His
Okay.
book. And what he observed to be very reductive is he said, high performers seem to describe this concentrated state in very similar ways, whether they are an athlete, whether they are an artist, whether they are, executive. Why is that? What is this thing that some people can get their brains to do? And he wrote a fantastic book around this and said, I want to call this thing flow, to be in flow, because it seems like these people get onto a river where their own actions are further increased by almost like the flow of being carried on a raft down the river. It's your action plus the universe is pushing you forward towards your goal, right? So he named it
Okay.
flow and he calls this thing flow states. And it is that hyper concentrated state or a highly concentrated state where you do amazing stuff and the world kind of falls away. I first experienced it. If anyone else has experienced this, maybe this will ring true with you. I first experienced it on a plane. I was flying from Austin to SF. I was doing some little designs on my laptop. And I remember we took off from Austin and we landed, and I was like, something's horribly wrong with the plane. Like, we must have landed at Dallas. Like, they took off, the engine fell off the plane and they landed so quickly. And I looked, and 2 hours and 40 minutes had gone by. And in my mind, we were crashing. Like, there's no way we could have taken off 2 hours and 40 minutes ago. I
Right.
hadn't gone to the bathroom. I don't know if the drink cart came by, right? But it was like wow, what happened? And my designs were done.
Wow. So you almost had that inspiration because it sounds like very similar to deep work, but
Yeah.
almost where you don't realize that your creativity is sort of taking over. I think it's how you feel when you're really enjoying what you're doing as well.
Yes. And this is what he wrote. It's a fantastic book where he said, it seems like in my study of this, there are some conditions precedent, or there's some ways that these high performers get into the state. Let me, sort of like Moses coming down with the tablets, let me bring this to the people, or Prometheus with fire, right? He's like, let me
Yes.
tell you what is common from all of these geniuses and athletes and artists. And he said there are a couple of things that seem to be true. One, they all believe that what they're doing is meaningful. Like no one seems to get into this state when they're doing like copying and filing and stapling reports, right? Doesn't seem to work. They also need to have skills that apply. So it's not Michael Jordan painting and it's not Picasso playing basketball, right? It has to be something that is challenging at the edge of their abilities. Like it is not brushing your teeth, you're going to get into a flow state, but it is Michael Jordan playing NBA basketball, where he may be the greatest, but it is still a challenging thing, right? So you get into that state and it's like alive, it's like electric when you're
Yes.
there. And it has to be something, obviously that you enjoy. And there are also some just conditions that help it. Like music is one. There's now been a lot of research post Mihai's book on, wow, it seems like our brains respond really well to about 60 to 90 beats per minute, certain key signatures, ambient, non-vocal music that helps you just block out distractions. And I know we all have that one friend that listens to like 90s gangster rap when they're doing their thing, or
Yeah.
death metal. Like we all have the exception to the rule. We all know them. But in terms of the research, there's a lot of that, including sometimes with binaural beats, which is a little more heavily debated, which is, for those who don't know, binaural beats where you have in each channel, like your left and right ear, you have to do it
Yes.
with headphones. You have slightly offset sounds. And they say that different offsets, like 36 to 40 hertz, sometimes stimulates the brain in a more creative way, like with gamma sort of, waves. You can experiment with this for yourself. We
I'm just
offer,
thinking with teachers, like it would be
yeah,
something quite interesting to play in the classroom.
yeah, but you
Um,
have to do it. You have to feed each ear a different sound for binaural
oh, I
beats.
see. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, also, my other idea was like teenagers, right, who really struggle to
Oh, yeah.
prioritize, and it could be definitely something to consider, if you've got a teen at home, really
Yes.
showing them that, giving them these strategies on how to prioritize what they have to do and not get overwhelmed by it.
Yes. And when you think about that, and the binaural beats is actually very popular with teens and younger people, because there's something cool about this notion of like, oh, I'm stimulating my brain because as I'm here working, it's trying to reconcile two sounds that are offset by like this many cycles per second, you know? And that's essentially what the concept is here, is by saying your left ear is 40 cycles per second ahead or behind of the other signal, that it makes your brain have to think. The same way like when a train goes by, you have the Doppler effect of like your brain knows, oh, the whistle of the train is getting higher, it's approaching, it's getting lower, it's going away. Like that sort of thing where your brain recognizes the change in cycles and it processes it and goes, I know what to do with this. It's similar like binaural. So it's just something interesting to say, experiment with this. It might help. And it's definitely something I know that is popular with like the under 30 crowd of like, how do binaural beats make me magically more creative and stuff?
Yes, definitely. I find that they're the best for focus as well. I
There you
also,
go.
and I was
See
checking
that?
them out on your app as well, and I really like them.
It is super fun.
They
And
are super fun.
speaking of which, some people really love what we call soundscapes or naturescapes. We had someone request, hey, I actually loved working in coffee shops, but during the pandemic, can't go to a coffee shop. So we found a recording of 2 hours of a coffee shop in Vienna, Austria. And we put it up as if it was a playlist of music, just 2 hours of hearing people serve coffee and the espresso machine and that sort of thing. It's an incredibly popular playlist. Who knew?
I do have a question. What do you do if, what would your strategy be, like your personal strategy, and
Mhm.
even, using the app for people when you get into that moment that you do have to do things that you don't want to do,
Mhm.
but you need to get them done, particularly, if you're in a position where you maybe not so keen on your job. Or just there's things
Not
around the
that
house
that
that
ever
you need to,
happens.
yeah, I know. Never. Or even there's things around the house you need to do or something like that. What are your strategies for, and because I have had a teacher ask me this before, like, how do you develop that self-discipline? How do you develop, what do you say to yourself to be like, I need to get this done?
Okay. I'll give you, there is no magic bullet for that, but I'll give you some techniques that I've
Okay.
seen very popular with our membership, right? We are big fans of time boxing. And I'll tell you why. First, there is the magical thing of like when you tell yourself, I have 45 minutes to do this, it's weird the way you get it done in 45 minutes. It doesn't sprawl, right? So
Yeah.
there's that aspect. Cal Newport has written about near everybody's written about this, right? There's something about that thing. So, of course, in our platform, when you create a task, you have to declare how long it should take. And your smart assistant will let you know halfway through, like, hey, you're 30 minutes into your hour-long task. How are you doing? Are you on track? And you're just like, oh, yeah, I'm about half done, or I needed to hurry up. And when you're like 5 minutes from being done, like, hey, you should start wrapping it up, right? So that time boxing thing has been very helpful for some people with that kind of onerous task that is, man, if I could just compartmentalize this and say, it's not going to take my entire afternoon to do this, I'm going to focus, rip the Band-Aid off, and get it done in 30 minutes by using this tool. That's something we've found people really appreciate, right? So time boxing is one. Another one, and this is a debated one, okay? Time boxing, universally, like everyone's like, check, do this, right? Now, this next one, I'll tell you, people have religion on both sides. And I'll tell you where I stand at the end, which is, there's a great Mark Twain quote about eat the frog first thing in the morning, right? So find the most onerous, painful thing you have to do, get it done first thing in the morning. The logic being, when that's off your to-do list, the rest of your day seems easy and you're in a great mood because you're like, I did my TPS reports, whatever thing like you were dreading to do, right?
Brian Tracy, he wrote a whole book around that, like that whole
exactly.
Eat the frog. Yeah.
Eat the frog. Yeah. Yep. So there is that school of thought. And I know we have a number of people in our community that swear by that. Now, I will tell you this. I experimented with that with myself. And something I found about me is I actually get through more during the day if I see my momentum build in the first hour. If in the first hour I go, I knock these 3 things out, I feel kind of invincible. And then I feel like I can slay the dragon, eat the frog in this case. Right?
Yes.
It makes our metaphors. Eat the dragon. So in talking about this over the past 6 years with a ton of people, it is interesting how people usually have a strong feeling of one or the other. It's either I need to ramp up into it in the morning and then I'm like at speed, or absolutely, if I have the discipline to eat the frog first thing, the rest of the day sails by. So that is one where I'm going to say, choose your own adventure.
That's good advice. I have done the eat the frog method before. And especially if it's something that is a little bit uncomfortable that you really have been putting off, you just really do feel so much better when you get it done.
Totally
right?
true. Yep.
And it's definitely, I can see why Brian Tracy wrote that book about it because it is really valuable technique. So that's, definitely good. I'm curious because I'm thinking in terms of like with teachers, and obviously if teachers or parents, I would definitely recommend looking at the platform for their children. But I know teachers themselves are very overwhelmed and there's a lot of, stress that they take home with them. I know you were telling me with your mom as well. So in a minute, I want to know how you're going to move this, like what's your thoughts for the future for the platform? But I'd love to know what techniques do you feel would best benefit teachers in order to
love you asking that. I'll tell you this. When I was producing with Alex Kurtzer and Bob Worsey at DreamWorks, we're amazing guys. They're the writers, for anyone who doesn't know, Transformers series, Mission Impossible they've written, Zorro, Eagle Eye, tons of Star Trek 11, a bunch of stuff, right? And, they're in the $2 million writers club. They'd met back in college, back like high school, college days, right? What was curious is when they had that, we've got to buckle down and do this thing, they had their assistant rent a room across the lot. We were at DreamWorks, which is on the Universal lot by Universal Studios. Across the street was the Universal Hilton. They had their assistant rent the hotel room there. I'm just going to say it is not a luxury property. It is like the place you stay in when your family comes in from Iowa and you or going to Universal Studios for the day. But I realized for them, it did the same thing, which is they had met back in those college days. And I think for them, it evoked a dorm, with Alex like sitting on the edge of the bed with his laptop and Bob at the little desk with his laptop. And it brought back that feeling of like, we're these young guys who are going to make great movies someday. And it brought them to their creative space. And they had trained their minds. So when it was like, guys, we got to write this the next 2 weeks, off to Universal Hilton. So I offer that because I know that I can project, and my mom was a teacher, that there are different environments in which you can work.
Right.
There's obviously a classroom. There's often a home space. There's a third space sometimes. And something that you can become attuned to is when I need to do this kind of work, let me train my brain to say, oh, this is the space where I do it. And as you do that, you will enter that space and fall into your flow state faster because your brain goes, oh, I'm in the X space. This is where I do grading, or this is where I write creative plans, or whatever that thing is. And that I think can be very helpful. And again, you can do it for $0. It is simply observing and then being consistent. That's simple.
It's true. Like making your space pleasant as well, right? Is to actually, because that's one thing you're in control of. If you like it cluttered, okay, have it cluttered. But if you like it organized, or you need something there,
Very
you
true.
need, I don't know, like incense burning or a candle or whatever, set it up.
I have a candle on either side of this desk. It's so funny you say that.
There you go. I also have a candle here.
Let me tell you one more story that is kind of interesting. And again, this is simply knowing yourself. This is not about you have to go buy anything, subscribe to anything, do anything, right? Which is when I was coming up in film, again, I was about 20 at the time, and I was working at an ad agency that did trailers for movies. So we get in films from the studios, write a trailer for them, and they'd use that to promote it, right? So my job was I would be receiving the films as they came in. We did a lot of Warner Brothers and Buena Vista, which is essentially Disney. I would find writer-directors in our stable. I go, hey, Marisa, we have this Julia Roberts romantic comedy for spring. Could you work on this, right? That was my job. Run by these two guys who are in the business 20 plus years, very respected in Hollywood. It's some of the best promo guys in Hollywood, right? So one of them is named Jeff, and he always called me Stevie. He's the only person who's ever called me Stevie. I'm just going to tell you, that's the way the story goes. So he comes to my office, he goes, Stevie. I was like, yeah. He's like, Bart? And I was like, there's a guy in the vault who drives tapes around Hollywood named Bart. I met him in the elevator. Yeah. He goes, you ever give Bart a movie to write a trailer? And I was like, Bart, the guy who drives the tapes around Hollywood. No, I've never given actually a movie to write a trailer for Warner Brothers. No, he goes, I have an instinct about him. You should give him something. And of course, I'm like, Jeff, man, your name's on the door. You have this great reputation. Done. I'll find a movie. So I found this like Warner Brothers B title that had like a month deadline. So if he didn't deliver, we could give it to someone else, right? Do it. So I do this. 2 days later, Jeff comes to my office. Stevie, how's Bart doing? I was like, I gave him the movie 2 nights ago. I'm not going to stress him out and ask him how he's doing. Like, I'll ask him on Monday. Jeff's like, okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, so what else did you give him? Jeff, he's never in. I'm not going to give him 2 movies. He's one, right? And Jeff, and that, by the way, the lesson he taught me, I have seen a proven true so many times. It's ridiculous. He said to me, Stevie, let me teach you something about creativity. It's always about the other thing. I was like, okay, what do you mean? He's like, you give Bart one thing to focus on, and he's going to stare at that thing with little beads of sweat coming down his temples, and he is going to write the most obvious B version of that trailer. Because the part of your mind that does the wow is the other part of your mind. He's like, if you want to have that moment where Bart goes, ooh, chocolate and peanut butter, what about that together? That happens because you give him something else to focus on. You got to give him another movie. And I'm going to tell you this, Bart is now a very well-established writer-producer in Hollywood. His career took off. Jeff was totally right about him. And I have seen what Jeff said proven in film, in television, in technology. It is amazing how true that is. And there's actually a great book on the neuroscience of this called The Net and the Butterfly by Olivia Fox and Judah Pollack. And what it talks about in much smarter terms than I'm sharing with you here is they're almost like two networks, two modes in your brain that are running. There's like an executive mode that is, I have to execute this action. I have to get my homework done by 10. I need to grade the papers by tomorrow at 9 a.m. I need to drive to work, that sort of. And there's like a default mode, which is almost like the baby, where it's like, huh, wonder what the cell phone tastes like. I'll put that in my mouth.
Yeah.
And the default mode doesn't get to do that. Ooh, what does a cell phone taste like? Kind of like bizarre stuff when the executive mode network is watching it. So you almost have to occupy the other, which is why if you've noticed, many people have experienced this. When you're showering, when you're doing the dishes, when you're driving, you have that weird thought of like, oh, you know what my your lesson plan should be, or you know what my
The
great
inspiration hits.
yeah,
Yes.
because
When
your
you're
executive mode
walking
network
as
is
well.
walking, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's
In
busy,
nature or
and the
something.
default mode network gets to go. I have a cool idea. Want to hear it?
Yes. And you have to trust that inspiration, that intuition
Yes.
as well when you get it. I think that's the most important thing. Like even as teachers, you think, oh, well, I've just got to do like the same thing. There's so much on my plate. But we also get that inspiration, that intuition. And it's almost like you must write it down and take action on it because you don't know how much it might help make something else easier in your life.
So true. And in some ways, like being a teacher is almost like being a producer, where you have a team of people who are all trying to do something. It may be assigned homework, it may be creative work, whatever it is, but you're trying to get them to the place where they do the work that's going to move their life forward. That is not that dissimilar to eventually when you're running a corporation and you're trying to get a team of people to do the work that'll move the lives of everyone forward. And to understand things like this, like, oh, to just give someone one creative project is almost crippling. To give them two is counterintuitively better. You'll get better creativity out of them. So it's just an interesting tip learned through the years.
No, I think definitely with regards to how you want to move your platform into the future, because I was just thinking, it would be, must think about maybe marketing it to schools, having like a, what do you call it? Like one of your tiers of payments is like, the school.
Oh yeah,
you can like
absolutely
have it for the teachers and the students as well. I think, especially because so many more students have devices and they can listen to music while they're working. But I am curious, where do you want to take the platform into the future, like with other areas of focus and productivity or different areas?
Well, I'll tell you this. A number of friends were very early in the biohacking, biofeedback, biometric world of like the rings and the Oura ring and the Apple Watch and all of that. And to be very reductive, what I thought was interesting about that, because I don't actually wear an Oura ring, I don't have an Apple Watch, is the idea that, hey, you know what? It's true. If I measure something, then I can start improving it. And if that's the way in which you get that idea made manifest in your life, okay, well, that's a very good thing. So I'll tell you one thing that we're working on right now is as you work, there is in one corner of your screen a live productivity graph where you can see every 5-minute chunk of, suppose you have 2 hours that you're working, which is generally what we recommend is not more than 2 hours in a chunk. You can scroll your cursor over that graph and in 5-minute chunks, see what did I do then? Like, why did my score go up? Oh, you're super focused. You didn't open Facebook. You didn't, you didn't pick up your phone. You can, by the way, you can lock your phone if you want, because that's a big distraction for me. So we built that. Yeah. Or your score went down. What did I do? That's when I watched that YouTube video, but then I clicked on the next YouTube video and then it's a slippery slope.
Right.
So you can start to learn over time going, you know what it is I always have this dip around an hour. There's something around an hour where I think, oh, I'm just going to check my email or something, pick up my phone. And then once you've learned, once you've observed, once you've measured, then you have a choice. Then you can choose to do that again and repeat that pattern. Or then you can say, I know in an hour is when I should stand up, stretch, get a glass of water, because I need some reset. But let's not have that reset be I start scrolling in TikTok, because I'm going to tell you, the best paycheck, if you are a behavioral psychologist, designer, an engineer, is to go work for one of the companies that steals your life. Flat out.
Yeah.
You want to go be a millionaire and you understand behavioral psychology or you're a great designer, go work for Mark, go work for Evan, go work for TikTok. You will get more stock options. If you can find a way to steal one more second from 1 billion people, you will be wealthy beyond your wildest dreams, because their entire business model is can I steal your life and sell it to an advertiser and I keep the money? That's what
Yes.
you're fighting against. That is truly the war, is the smartest people in the world are being paid to make sure other people waste their lives.
It's so scary because it stops greatness from developing, right? It stops you from creating, it stops you from actually, becoming that higher version of you
Mhm.
instead of getting trapped into this mental health abyss of distraction. It's so affecting on your mental health as well for so
Yeah,
many,
that's
especially for younger
something I believe
people.
deeply is we all have something great inside us. The question of life is, will we get it out or not?
Yes. We are all creators. I think that is one of the greatest lies sometimes we're told, is that you're
Mhm.
not a creator unless you are in the arts, or you're a designer, or you draw, or you act, or something, or you sing.
Yeah.
And in fact, everyone is a creator.
Mhm.
Everyone has the ability to create something. And that's why listening to that intuition is also so important, because
Agreed.
you can definitely make a difference, right? But are you going to
Yes.
choose to go on TikTok, or are you going to choose to take that 10 minutes and just make a couple of notes about where, some goals or something you would like to do?
That was something my mom was more proud about when I was little. My mom died when I was little, so she's not here now. But I remember she talked about being, eventually, she was a systems programmer at IBM, right? Which is a good job, paid well. It's how she met my dad. But the thing she was most proud of is she talked about when she was teaching math and science in the Bronx, high school level, and she'd had a knife pulled on her. This is, pre a lot of security cameras and
Yeah,
safety nets.
for sure.
And she talked about the people whose lives she affected. And sometimes it was as simple as when they started showing themselves the respect of coming to class on time, when they started showing themselves the respect of having their homework done. And she would talk the beginning of the semester and the end about specific people she remembered 20 years later, you know, and the effect of allowing them to see there was a path to having self respect. She talked about
Mhm.
more than any program she ever worked on at IBM.
Wow.
I think that's really powerful.
It is absolutely powerful, because once you can get to that point of self-respect, and I think self-love as well, you have to love yourself
Mhm.
first. It starts you on the path, right? To
Mhm.
realizing that you deserve this. You deserve to, you know, to get that reward of working hard and possibly creating something that can change people's lives, like the Sukha Company is doing and will continue to do. I have absolutely no doubt. So yeah, that's a fantastic way of putting it, like from what came about with your mom. I'm curious, are there any, I know we've mentioned a few books, which I definitely want to pop them into the show notes,
Yes.
but are there any books, since you're such a reader, any books you recommend for like personal or professional development for people that
I
you
will give you an
liked?
offbeat one because
Okay.
I know we could talk about atomic habits and tiny habits and deep work. Like there are a lot of obvious ones. I'm going to say one that's really far off the beaten path that you just might really dig. I love it. It's probably the book I have gifted to more friends than any other single book,
Okay.
other than Dr. Seuss. If you're
Yes.
my friend and you have a baby, you will get a anthology of Dr. Seuss
I
because I
love it.
think it's just absolutely amazing. So it is a book that Will and Ariel Durant wrote, and they wrote the history of civilization, right?
Okay.
Spend most of their life studying the entirety of human history, wrote the 11 or 13 volume work, The History of Civilization, right?
Wow.
Amazing life's journey.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I think they were in their 70s. They wrote this very small book that was like the distillate of what did we learn? And it is not overridden. I'm telling you, you could read a single 3 or 4 page chapter in there and have an entire dinner party around the ideas in it because it is
Wow.
so dense with like, when you've studied what we've studied, here are the patterns you see of humans. And it's called The Lessons of History. Fantastic book. And you can read it in chunks. Like each chapter is sort of a thought on like,
Yeah.
how civilizations fall. What are the hallmarks? It's like, I remember this one line there where it said, civilizations in decline eat well.
Yeah.
And when you think about what is encoded in that, what they're trying to say, you're like, you're right. There is a thing when the not to be gender specific, but like the sons are not greater than the fathers. When you have that generational shift from
Mhm.
the I must rise above. Like my father, I know, came from poverty that I will never understand. He worked very hard to make sure I had no reference point for how bad it was when he was little, right? In India. And now I live a life where, yes, I can go to Bali with my wife and on honeymoon, not where my parents went on their honeymoon, right?
Yes.
And you think about what is that thing that changes in a society. And this book is filled with those little observations where you're like, wow, that is true of the Romans. That's true of the Ottomans. That is true of, Germany in this era. And you just see how when you've studied civilization, the patterns are so evident. So I will recommend that book, although it's probably not an obvious one.
I've never heard of it, so I am excited to check it out for sure. To finish off today, Stephen, do you have a favorite quote by any chance? I love quotes.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's a very, well, I'll give you two quotes actually. One I was talking about just yesterday, and then one is on my fridge. The one on my fridge is be the change you wish to see in the world.
Nice.
Right. And the other one I was talking about, and I'm going to mangle this a little bit, but I think Picture just said, if men are not afraid of things, but rather their ideas about things.
Oh, I like
I was
that.
having a conversation with Laura yesterday about something where she had some anxiety. And I said, okay, so let's really dig into it. What is the thing? And it was her idea about this thing that might or might not happen.
Yeah.
More than it was actually the thing. And confronting things that way and saying, like, am I afraid of the thing? Or am I afraid of my ideas that I'm building this story up around the thing? And it ended up going really well for her this morning. But man, to encapsulate that in such a pithy way, I wish I were concise. Anyone listening here is like, Steven, be more concise.
I agree. I think fear holds us back from a lot of things. So
Yeah.
analyzing like why you're thinking like that is always a good idea. And last final question. What 3 things are you grateful for today, Stephen?
I'm grateful. I am going to be a father. Laura and I are going to have a son in
so
4 months and
exciting.
change. I know. Has definitely inspired me to spread the knowledge that I've learned more this year. I've done more speaking engagements, more podcasts than I normally do in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So very grateful about that. Laura's healthy. Things seem to be on a good trajectory. We'll see how the way it goes. It'll be what the universe wants, but that's like a daily joy, patting her little belly. So I'm very grateful for that. Very grateful that although I lost my mom when I was little, Laura was super down to move to Austin and be close to my dad. So he lives down the block. I can walk to his house in less than 20 minutes. And I know he's not going to be here forever, but he's going to get to play with his grandchildren. Super cool. Just drive down the street, go see him. So I'm really grateful that he's around, and we'll have him in their lives, and he'll be around. I think the third thing is I'm doing something that as it grows will probably be the thing I'm most proud of in my life. Helping people be happy and be in control of, their productivity. Like more than any movie I worked on. Die Hard 5 did not change the world. Wolverine did not change the world. Transformers, big hits, didn't change the world. None of the movies I worked on really changed the world. But I feel like this can help people. Even if it helps one person, it's like, cool.
That's how I look at it too, 100%. Well, I am so grateful for you, Stephen, that you came on the show.
Fun.
You shared.
Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. I really appreciate your dedication towards, like you said, helping people not with their focus and productivity, because it does bring in the happiness factor. It does make you happier. It does give you that little dopamine hit that I can do this, I've done this.
Yes.
And I just sending all the good vibes that your platform is going to be recognized by people everywhere, and that this podcast is going to help get it out there. And because all of us need help with focus and productivity, I believe. So thank you so much. And we will pop all your social media accounts definitely onto the show notes as well.
And if anyone, like you said, if anyone does want some reference, like, oh, what was that Cal Newport book, whatever, they're welcome to email me. I will give them a link to, oh, here's that near article that I referenced or something.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing, amazing day.
You too. Bye, everybody.